Greetings and welcome to Knowledge for Life, where we talk about health and wellness issues impacting the Black community. Because, as we all know, our health and wellness is different than what you might say is the average American's health and wellness issues. There are so many different dynamics to our health and wellness, and that is why we need a program where we can begin to not only understand health and wellness, but the whole dynamics of it, the history of it, and how it's affecting us today. And so today, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking. I'll put the flyer up that we had put out there. We're going to be talking about from sales to society, alternative paths to healing. And what we're specifically talking about is cancer. And so to join me to talk about this, we have some very, very dynamic and insightful brothers and sisters. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first guest, and Sister Patrice Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, sir.
Thank you so much for not just being a part of this conversation, but accepting my invitation. And not only accepting my invitation, but you went out and you were able to bring on three other individuals who will really help to give us some understanding of cancer, to where we can, if we do have cancer or we got the prognosis of having cancer, that we have hope. And so thank you for that. And I'm going to bring on Brother Victer Muhammad. Greetings, Brother Victer. Uh-oh, there we go. It was a little delay, but it came up. Greetings, brother.
Greetings, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you. And I appreciate that. And we have one more, and I'm gonna look for his name because he just like seconds ago came on to the program. So I'm going to introduce my brother Eric Ahad Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, brother. Oh, you got it on mute. Let's see.
Walaikum salam, everyone. How are you all?
All right. We're doing well. Thank you, brother. Now, if you have a panel of guests, I'm just saying this for those who may want to do a talk show themselves. If you have a panel of guests, there's going to always be one guest that has their camera on mute. No, I'm just playing, brother Harry. Let's get right on into this. So I want to introduce first Dr. Patrice Muhammad. She's a highly accomplished board-certified physician, associate, and doctor of integrative medicine with over three decades, right, of experience spanning multiple medical disciplines, including internal medicine, family medicine, emergency medicine, pediatrics, and more. She has held key roles in quality oncology, research, disaster preparedness, which I'm really into, and we should all be into it right now. Federal based healing, offering telehealth and promotes natural therapies. Dr. Muhammad also collaborates with the Salam Community Wellness Center in Chicago, supporting a broad spectrum of integrative health services. Currently, she leads prostate cancer research to improve diagnosis and treatment strategies for men of African descent. And you can find her website at www.healthatitsbest.com. And so, Doctor,
.org.
before we .org. Thank you.
O-R-G.
Yes, thank you. And before we go forward, is there anything that I might have mistaken or slipped up on?
No, you're fine.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Mr. Victer Muhammad, who is a biomedical and agricultural research scientist, the executive director of Life Sciences of Washington, Inc. which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to scientific progress. His work includes contributions to HIV research and discussions on biomedical topics. Mr. Muhammad's experience extends to humanitarian efforts, agricultural science, and biochemical research with a focus on advanced health and sustainability. Thank you, brother. And your website, I believe, I'm not sure if it's an acronym or if it's word, but it's isow.org. Is that correct?
No, sir.
Okay.
LSOW.
Say that once again.
OSW.org.
That's an L. Okay. Yes, sir. LSOW.org. Thank you. And last
You're
but
welcome.
not least is Mr. Eric Ahad Muhammad, BIT, MBA, investigational research analyst, CEO of Nature's V, an online natural immunity supplement company. So thank you all once again for coming on to the program to talk about this very serious topic, which is cancer. And so what I wanted to just get a basic understanding is, what is cancer? Is cancer something that is natural, or is cancer something that is hereditary, or is, what is cancer?
Well, cancer is the abnormal cell turnover that occurs. There are cells that become, they mutate from normal cells to abnormal cellular activity. And no, it is not normal. There is a genetic component, but a very small genetic component when you talk about the other varieties of cancer or the types of cancer. And so that's basically it in a nutshell. However, we do have the biomedical research scientists who may want to offer more information on what is cancer. I just highly simplified it, but he probably can give more information on that.
Yes, Mr. Muhammad, Brother Victor, what do you say?
Well, cancer is not the boogeyman that the medical world has made it to be. Cancer is simply whenever the cells in the body start to duplicate themselves, such as when the cells are producing an organ, an arm, a leg, an ear. And there is a mechanism within the nucleus of the cell that turns off the duplication of the cells once that organ is complete. Well, there are things that can cause the mechanism within the cell, to not turn off. And so the cell will continue to duplicate itself as though it's still making an organ. A chemical can cause this interaction to be turned off, or a virus can cause this mechanism to not be turned off. But at any rate, after a while, those cells that are duplicated themselves become a clump. A clump called a tumor, carcinoma. And once is made, pathologists and oncologists refer to that clump as cancer. So they make it to sound a lot worse than what it is, because that's part of their mechanism of getting you to take the treatment, to frighten you and to make you afraid. That is the most simplified description that I can give.
All right, thank you, brother. Thank you. And we were having some issues with the audio, but you were dropping it so heavy. We just had to listen to what you had to say for sure. But brother Mark, brother Eric, I'm sorry. Brother Eric, can you talk a little bit about what brother Mr. Victor said? And just in case people didn't hear or understand, can you help give us an understanding? Oh, you're yep, it's on mute. There you go. All right.
Habit. In a nutshell, it's just that it's part of the cellular activity of the body. Though it's something that should not take place, normally it does take place. And that it does take place is not a death sentence um, if you know who you're dealing with and the methodology they use to treat what's going on. Too many people are diagnosed with cancer. Too many people are misdiagnosed with cancer, especially in the United States. The necessity of someone who practices medicine and healing like Dr. Patrice Muhammad, and then a scientist of the nature of Mr. Victer Muhammad is a necessity in all of our lives today because we're listening to people who are learning. And in their
Right.
learning, they're making mistakes. And then those mistakes are not being corrected by people of Mr. Victer Muhammad's knowledge uh, because doctors like uh, Dr. Patrice Muhammad don't have access to him to get the answers that they need. So if the doctors are misguided, of course, the patients are misguided. And if they only know what they're being sold by the pharmaceutical mafia, then they'll only treat the patients in that way. So, in a nutshell, what he's saying is that your knowledge of what's going on is the most important thing that you can get. And there's a greater knowledge that he's expressed that obviously most of us need.
Right. Exactly. And so cancer is something that is from what I've read is predominantly something that white people have for the most part. However, it was talking about how in certain cancers, not only do we have that cancer, but we are dying quicker from that cancer. Can any of you talk about prostate cancer and breast cancer and any of the other cancers that are growing in our community, like colon cancer?
Well, our communities are dying disproportionately from what is called cancer because of latent diagnoses. We're being diagnosed late, and we seem to have a more advanced disease process. And this comes from environment, it comes from food, and this is not by accident, we believe. This is by design. And so you will have those increased numbers in our community. So we have a major environmental component, which is through food and through substances that are in our communities, such as first of all, we have the poorest, we have the poorest food supply, but we also, we have alcohol, we smoke, those vices that are in our community that contribute to it. And so you have also, we have all these power lines. We're not just, there are many people that don't discuss those things. We have in our communities, we have many people live right next to the large waste disposals. And so, we have several components that disproportionately cause us to be affected by cancer. And then we don't go and get our evaluations as we should when we have issues. Sometimes we don't go when we are getting signals that something is wrong,
Mhm.
because we just decide, you know what, if we're not, our genetics tell us if you're not bleeding, or you can't walk,
Right.
and you just keep working, you just keep moving, you'll be okay.
And
But
you're touching on something really that is very serious, right? And that is, and I've heard you say it on some programs too, Mr. Victor, denial. And like you were saying, it's not a river. You said it's not a river in Africa, but denial. But I mean, denial to the point where, I mean, the cancer is evident that it's eating us away, and we're still in denial. And by the time we get to the doctor, it's almost to the point of no return. Can you talk about that?
well, you just said it.
I
In a
mean,
sense, we I mean, really, we do have signals. The body does give us signals, but we choose to continue to work through it, or say we'll be okay. And then a large part of us will say, I just don't want to know, because
mm,
if I have it, I mean, what am I going to do about it? It's
mhm,
this it's this like hopelessness that we
right.
kind of develop.
And
So
let me,
that's mhm.
I'm sorry. And you can answer this too. I want to just get Mr. Victor on and Brother Eric as well. Let me ask the question, Mr. Victor, about some of the times it's due to the fact that we don't feel that we have the correct finances to take care of this serious situation. What do you say to that?
I think it has very little to do with finances and more to do with misdiagnosis. I
Mm,
don't, I, I would not be naive in suggesting that cancer doesn't exist in the world, in the Black community, or in any community. I wouldn't do that. I do not believe that cancer is as prevalent as it's being made to be in any community. I believe that most of the cancer diagnoses in the African American community are not real. Not saying that the diagnosis is not real. What I'm saying is I don't believe that the person actually has cancer, because what proof do you have they have cancer? And if you check the government's statistics on people who die with cancer diagnosis, the person, if you check the pathology report from the autopsy, the person died from complications from chemotherapy or radiation
mm,
therapy or some other drug, and not cancer. It's the same with HIV and most other diseases. So I'm not sold on all the frequency of cancer diagnosis in any community, particularly the African American community. I don't believe. I think that African American males have an inherent fear or distrust. It's more of a phobia of
mhm. I think we kind of have a little lag there. We'll come back to you, Doc.
reluctant
Okay, there we go.
trust than a female animal. If you drive down the interstate in any state in America, you see the does and the fawn on the side of the highway grazing, meaning deer. You don't see a
Hmm.
buck there, because a buck inherently knows better than to come out in open space, because somebody is out there with a 30-06 rifle or bow and arrow. And
Yeah.
so you
Hmm.
don't see a buck. And so all male animals are just inherently more distrustful than a female or the young. And
Mm.
so African American males just don't trust medical society. Therefore, We don't
As well.
get sick as much as the female. We don't get diagnosed with as many diseases as African American females. You check with the average African American female, doctor's appointment every 2 weeks. How is that possible? And how can you live a good life when you're going to the doctor every 2 weeks? Of course, they're going to find something. Of course, you're going to be diagnosed with something, even if they have to plant something there.
Right.
Your feet are in the stirrups during your monthly exam, yearly exam, and this is a male with stainless steel devices examining you. What's to prevent him from injecting you with something? Are you going to say that couldn't happen? We've got too much evidence with the Indians and else that this can happen. So you better be careful in going to medical practitioners. Stop trusting them. I'm going to say it.
Yeah. Okay, so man, I mean, once again, the audio was horrible. Let's just admit it, right? The audio was horrible. However, the knowledge that you were giving was just you too powerful to turn away from. I just couldn't stop you. Let me ask you, Mr. Eric. So I want to play a clip, but I'm gonna play that in a few. But what are some of the profound deficits in cancer research when it comes down to, understanding how it's impacting our community?
As Mr. Victer Muhammad was speaking, I was thinking about when he was guiding me into my investigational research analyst background. And as a person who is an observer just by nature, you hear and see different things. And as he was talking, something came to me like an epiphany, and I'll share this, is that I recall in the history of the Nation of Islam that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad instructed his followers not to take the polio vaccine. Though the polio vaccine at the time was being given to Americans for the polio epidemic. There was, I guess, the constant things that are in vaccinations of the knowledge of something that Mr. Victer Muhammad might have. But one thing that is interesting as we talk about cancer and the proliferation of cancer, the history shows that that specific vaccine had a cancer-causing agent, to my best knowledge, Mr. Victer Muhammad can clarify, called SV40. You fast forward some years and you see the proliferation of cancer to begin to show itself in the American population. You fast forward 70 years to 2020, and there is the onset of the COVID pandemic.
Right.
They create a vaccination, and this is true to most of them, but I'll just use Pfizer. But you find that same SV40, whatever it is, protein, whatever it is, in the cancer-causing agent in the vaccination. Now, you asked about what's causing it. Well, since that took place, research has shown that we now have what Dr. Patrice Muhammad described as, and all of those who are listening in the medical field are describing as, this new perennial turbo cancer. It doesn't matter what type of cancer. It was not there yesterday, and it's there today, and you have stage 4 tomorrow. That's the type of cancer that's being found. So as I listened to Mr. Victer Muhammad speak to what he's speaking to, and being a student of science under him, I would have to say that this is very important, because now we see the same results as it relates to the increase of cancer after a mandatory vaccination in the United States.
Man, that's heavy right there.
That would be what I have surmised out of what we have studied. I'm
gonna play this clip, because this just falls right into, I guess, the direction that we're going. So I'm gonna play the clip by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Let me see if I got it here real quick. I think this is it. Okay, check this out, and then Brother Victor will get your comment on it.
In 1961, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us, you can take the other vaccines, but do not take the polio vaccine. None of my children had the polio vaccine, but it was discovered and announced by Dick Gregory and then verified by the American Cancer Association that polio vaccine was contaminated and contained that which would produce cancer. You tell me, why are we dying like this with so much cancer? What is happening to you? You trust this satanic mind, and you fear Farrakhan telling you the truth to save your life.
All right. Woo, praise be to Allah. Beautiful. So, bro, powerful. You know, all we have to do is just listen. That's all we have to do to save our life. Yes, sir, brother Eric.
I want to finish that because that story came to mind. I would ask Brother Victor in the times we would spend talking in the days about cancer, and he would always tell me this story about his studying of cancer and how when he would be doing his process of studying and he would be giving the mice cancer, how he would be injecting them with cancer. And he would tell me the story over and over again, and I would be listening to him, but I see the point he was trying to make. He would say, brother, I would get in ready to inject them. I would look in the vial and it would be clear. You hear what he's saying? The cancer's in the vial, but you can't see it. Yet I'm going to inject the cancer in you. And then he would explain to me how the mice would, in so much time, be covered with cancer. Listen to the wisdom of what was said by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and what was said in the laboratory of a man in the halls of the highest fields of science as it relates to cancer. Then he
let me ask Brother Victor this question then, because it's right on my mind. You know how that is. I got to get it out real quick. So I wanted to ask you about cancer. Is it natural, something that's natural to Black people? And also I wanted to ask you, are most cancers viral in nature? Because we talked about just if you can answer that. Are most cancers viral in nature?
Well,
and is it something that's natural to us?
Up until the 1960s, cancer was pretty much non-existent in the African American. There was no cancer in African Americans in the 1960s. It wasn't until the late 1960s, early 1970s that you began to slowly see cancer appear in African American. And it wasn't until 90s into the 2000s that cancer began to grow in a continent that is called Africa. It was pretty much non-existent. So, and the answer to your second question, in my 4 years of being associated with animal health, which includes humans, we have to remember we are animals. The most of the cancers, the actual cancers now that I have seen were viral related. So there are some cancers that are chemical related, such as hairy cell leukemia and like that. There are cancers that are caused by chemicals, but for the majority that I've seen, they are viral in their genesis.
Okay, all right. So let's go ahead. We're going to go into phase number 2 of this questioning. And so we lost Brother Victor. Hopefully we'll get him back. But if we did, but if we don't, I'll really appreciate the contribution that Brother Victor had to this program. It was very, very powerful. What are some of the signs and symptoms that we should look for, and what proactive steps can we take to detect cancer early?
Well, some of the signs and symptoms are anything that's abnormal to you. You know,
Okay.
There are certain tumors that occur in particular organs that may give you specific symptoms, like, of course, colon cancer in particular. You may start to have a bloody stool or very dark stool that you're not accustomed to seeing. You may start having abdominal pain, unusual constipation. Those are some of those symptoms. For stomach, if you have like a gastric cancer, you may start to have problems with digestion. You may start to have like what we call early satiety. You get full quickly. You may start to have symptoms of GERD or reflux that's causing some problems again with digestion. You may have like a bloody vomit. You may have when you have reflux, sometimes you may have a little belching and you may expel a little bit of the vomitus, and that could be a little blood tinged. However, sometimes it's just simply that you're not feeling well. You're not feeling well. You may have some weakness, some dizziness. You may have some abdominal pain. Again, if it's some of the gastric cancers.
Right.
But you should always investigate a symptom that's abnormal to you. If you are starting to feel lightheaded, you're starting to get this symptom. And sometimes if you know that you've been exercising a lot, or if you're not hydrating well, try to mitigate by just taking care of your health. But again, if there are some other symptoms that's outside of the range, just go and get it checked. Just go and get it checked and let them at least once a year. See, we don't do the once a year. Just do the once a year. You don't have to run to the doctor for every little sign and symptom, but make sure that you're getting your lab work. Make sure you're going to, I have to add this, you are going to a trustworthy medical or natural health provider who has your best interest at heart and is not just going to route you to have unnecessary testing and unnecessary visits to the doctor, but you do need to have at least a once a year exam. And again, investigate if you're having symptoms that are outside of the range of how you've been feeling, because that's how surprisingly just abnormal processes are detected and chronic conditions when
Mhm.
you just feel like there's just something just not quite right and you're starting to
Right.
not feel yourself.
Mm. And can I add to that? Because I watched the program. So I did a lot of research before you all came on. And I think I watched like every video that all of you have on the web. And so, but one of the things that I remembered, I think you, Dr. Patrice, was talking about aromatherapy. And I think it was you, Dr. Eric, who talked about, no, I think it was you, Dr. Patrice, that talked about dogs being able to sniff out cancer. So I just wanted to add that the olfactory or smell, sometimes we may not be smelling the same way that we normally smell. And that, but we ignore, that sign. Uh, and for, I guess, I don't know for what reason we ignore it, but for the most part, we ignore when we smell something that just isn't right. Um, Dr. Victor, would you like to say something more to that, or I can move to the next question?
The I think that um, I think it's almost an exercise in futility for us to discuss cancer prevention, although we haven't mentioned that. We've only mentioned cancer treatment, cancer diagnosis.
Mhm.
But I think it's almost an exercise in futility to talk about cancer prevention because the world in which we live, particularly America,
Mhm.
it is almost impossible to
Mhm.
avoid cancer in America.
Mhm.
We are a trifling people. We are a lazy people. We have no interest in the production of our foods.
Mhm.
We will take any kind of medication and shove it down our throats that a physician prescribes for us. We don't ask questions. We trust our newborn babies to the medical society. We take them to get their quote unquote booster shots as soon as they're born. And you
Mhm.
are inoculating, in my opinion, are inoculating your very own baby with sickness when you them to get vaccines and inoculations and flu
Mhm.
shots. So I think that the discussion that should take place is more so bringing about change in our everyday lives to prevent cancer. It can be
Mhm.
done. It's going to mean overhauling the entire American landscape. It can be
That's,
done,
yeah.
and it should be done. But I think the discussion should be in prevention, and we start that by changing agriculture. It has to be changed. There's no question about it. Otherwise, we're having academic conversations, and academic conversations are called academic because you don't have to prove anything. Folks, you just discuss it. That's what I would
Right.
say.
No, I mean, Brother Victor, hold on, let me get this screen right. I thank you for being so blunt and so frank and so honest, because it's something that, I do a lot of programs we do mental health and wellness. And one of the things that we did was a program on accountability. And one of the things that I talked about with accountability is not looking out the window, but looking at the man in the mirror. And I think that that's something like what you're saying is that we have to, as a people, begin to examine what we call culture, because obviously the culture, which is a way of a code of conduct towards each other, and a way to behave in a way that we're successful. So, but let me go to you, Dr. Patrice. and ask you if you can comment more on that as well.
Absolutely. He brought the subject home where it
Man,
needed to be. And that's always a pleasure to have him on, because he can definitely redirect
yeah,
where we need to go.
wonderful.
And with that um, personal testimony, knowing how to grow your own food.
Mm,
Uh, that is a must. And when he stated that we're lazy, the accountability issue, and that type of thing, we should be growing our own food. We should.
mhm.
And that's the only way, perfect. That's one of the only ways that we can really accept accountability and say that we are taking control and we are taking responsibility for our health. That
Right.
primary, because what we put in our mouths, that's primary. That must be addressed. So that's
Mhm.
the first thing. But also, when we have our families and what our families bring in, we have to revamp. As he said, we have to revamp what we put in our mouths, what we think
Mm,
is okay to eat,
right.
because as we've been taught, and as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has said, we go into the grocery stores. I mean,
Mm,
you have to look at how the grocery stores are, how they're designed. Most of
right.
what's on the shelves, that's not real food. Most of what's on the shelf. Real
Mm,
food is what you can pick up that you don't have to read ingredients for.
mm,
So we live in a world where processed food reigns supreme. And
mhm,
I'm talking about households across the board.
mm,
So you have more of these processed foods in your home that we've been learning for years. This country uses ingredients which contribute to abnormal cell division. It contributes to poor health. We have substances in our foods that other countries have banned for
right. Right.
years, but we
Mm,
use it here. And so we have a stress component, unlike no other. I mean, those are all components that derail your health, that
mhm,
impact your health to allow for poor health. And again, abnormal cell turnover, abnormal
mhm,
cell development, and this diagnosis of cancer, or not even if cancer. What about just diabetes?
mhm.
From just highly processed foods. That's a diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is a processed food disease. You have your thyroid and your pancreas have said it's just enough. Enough is enough.
And
And it
so I'm not to cut you off, but for those who are, I mean, that processed foods, for those who are just unfamiliar with processed foods, because let's be honest, a part of this, the problem is that I'm not saying ignorant bad, but yeah, ignorant bad. We're just so ignorant because to the most part, we've been domesticated. We've been so far removed from the farm. We've been so far removed from growing our own food, from where even food comes from, that when you talk about processed foods, what does that mean? And why is it that processed foods are more harmful to your health than natural foods? Um,
Mr. Erica Hyde, you want to address that?
yeah, I hope that this is not taking it too far off the roads, but I
No,
think that if we got a
but there is a
foundation,
person. No, but Mr. Victor Muhammad can address that, being an agricultural scientist. I know he can address it. So I'd like to hear what he
right?
has to say.
Yes, sir. Brother Victor, the floor is
Well,
yours.
well, in simple language, if it comes out of a box, out of
Mm,
cellophane, plastic, and you bring it into your kitchen and prepare it, then you shouldn't be doing it. The the way commodities are produced in America, they are going to cause cancer and they are going to kill you. There is a phenomenon called bioaccumulation. And what is bioaccumulation? It means that something has enough poison in it where it won't kill you instantaneously, but after 20 years or 30 years, it will kill you. And so your food does that. It is abnormal to be dying at 65, 85, 95, or 105. That is abnormal. Because of the lifestyle we have in the Western world, particularly the United States of America, this is what we experience. I hear people say that, oh yeah, I bought this from a black farmer, as though that automatically means it's better. And it doesn't. If the black farmer is using the same techniques of farming that the Caucasian farmer used, then what's the difference in what he produced and what the Caucasian farmer produced?
Right.
See, these are all misnomers that people get and stand in front of you and stand in front of the people and say as though they know what they're talking about, and they're giving people bad advice. They're, Mr. Willie B., who is a black man, is growing watermelons or his okra the same as Mr. Johnson, the Caucasian, then how is Mr. Willie B's better? Being black doesn't automatically make it better. And so these are the kinds of fallacies to which we're falling in America, and we're being led like lamb to the slaughter in America because of people who are standing in front of us pontificating things about which they know nothing.
Yeah, once again, once again, Brother Victor, you bring some hard truths. So let's go ahead and get into, because we just have we don't have too much time left, and I would love to talk to you all more about coming back onto the program. I'm gonna just say that right now, right? I'm gonna just put it out there to talk about some other issues that I would love to hear your insight on. So let's go into, and you all are saying it, why is how to eat to live so important when it comes to fighting, surviving therapy and recovery from cancer? And so I'm talking about How to Eat to Live, of course, the book by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the different principles that he laid out from God. But I'm also talking about How to Eat to Live, as you were saying, Brother Victor, going into some more minute aspects of it, of how do we find proper food?
We have to produce it. We have to take our mouths out of the fields of people who we don't know. And there's such a great deal of hypocrisy among us that there are people like myself who grow halal meat, who grow actual halal meat, and people who grow clean vegetables and fruits like me. But I end up having to discard most of it because Black people, African Americans, will pass right by my farm where I can certify and I can explain why my meat is halal and every other piece of halal meat that you're purchasing is not halal. And I can explain why my vegetables are clean because I grew them. The feed that I feed the animals on my farm, I make it myself. My PhD research was in digestive physiology and ruminant nutrition. So I know how to make livestock feed, you see. And so these are the signs that indicate the hypocrisy among us. where we will come and testify that we want such and such meat and we want such and such clean vegetables, but we're lying. No, we don't. And one of the sad realities among us is that very few of us tell the truth.
About what we're selling.
About most things, not just food, but about most things. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, like I was saying, and Dr. Patrice, did you want to jump in there?
Well, actually, I think he said a mouthful, and I don't have to come behind him and kind of rectify anything. What I also wanted to do, after you want to make a comment from what he stated, is I'd like to also, just in the few minutes that we have left, to speak about not only the food that he produced, but the landmark immunotherapy products that he's produced that I definitely employ with alternative cancer protocols, because it is absolutely necessary to keep a person's immune system that is strong and ready to fight any foreign invader, including cancer. But I'd like us to spend just a moment to talk about
let's get into that.
Therapy products that he's developed. And I think you have a brochure to put them up.
I
and
sure do.
Speak to those that they are.
Yes, and we were able to make it fit the
yes,
fit the screen, so it looks nice. But
That's
please,
perfect.
just go right on into this immunotherapy and give us, if you would, just a little bit of history of how this came about. And I guess, brother, Mr. Victer, it's on you.
Well, I started with biologicals.
I see his sound is.
Oh boy.
I know, right?
Alpha.
Okay.
And the researchers who were working with it threw it in the trash because they couldn't get it to work. Then in November 1994, Dr. Abdul Muhammad contacted me while I was working doing breast cancer research at Howard University's med school, because the Food and Drug Administration had confiscated his Kimron coming from Nairobi, Kenya, and his patients were dying because they couldn't get the medication. He asked if I could do anything to help. So I told him, I said, brother, I don't know. Let me check and I'll call you back. So I went, grabbed my immunology books and just started flipping through them. And I remembered that we had played around with interferon alpha when I was at NIH. So I did some calibrations and some extrapolations and put something together in a liquid. And I took it to the clinic, and this was November 1994. And 3 days later, I was called by Dr. Muhammad from the Abundant Life Clinic, and he was shouting and that the product that I had been blessed to put together was working. And the patients were getting up off the bed, they were eating, their appetite had returned, their T-cell counts were rising, their viral load was decreasing, all because of this product that I had been blessed to put together. So that was the first one in November 1994. And by April 1995, we had our first serodeconversion of HIV positive to HIV negative in Demetrius Haskins. And by August 2002, there were 8 of them, 8 people taking my product who serodeconverted. And from that day to now, we have gone from one product, one biological, to I think we have about 11 now, different products that treat, well, I can't say treat, but people use to combat whatever disease they have. There are 11 of them now. And if you want to know more about them, you can contact us. But this is the forum to go into all of that because it would just take too long.
Right. Definitely. Definitely. Just to give us just a little bit about the immunotherapies, I'm gonna put them up one more time. So what is it about the immunotherapy that is something that everyone should invest in, or at least do their research and find out about, as far as our immunity is concerned?
Was that a question, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What was
As,
the
as
question? Can you repeat it?
so how does immunotherapy, how is it different than just, for instance, taking a vitamin?
Well, because there's no evidence that vitamins work. Vitamins have a role to play in the body because they are generally the catalyst that works with enzymes in order to digest something or to break something down. But I don't think you'll find too many scientists, actual scientists, speaking on the efficacy of vitamins. You just won't find it. You find lay people talking about it, but not. So now, what is the difference between an immunotherapy that I developed? I can speak on that. These are
Yes.
biologicals. What is intended by a biological is that this is a protein that occurs in a body, an animal's body, that carries out a particular function. Most everything that's done inside a living organism, whether it's a plant or an animal, mostly everything that carries out a function, it's a protein. Proteins are the workhorses of a living organism. And so in the immune system, it's not any different. In the immune system, the entities that carry out immune responses, attacking invaders like viruses, bacteria, proteins, protozoas, these are proteins. They attack, they kill, they devour, they get rid of. What I think has happened in America and the world is that at some point, maybe shortly after World War II, I believe that there was an action that took place in America and the world to begin to reduce the immune system of the human being. Because by reducing the human being's immune system, you don't kill him, but you make him a product off which you make money. And you are insured a customer if you reduce a person's immune system. If you reduce the functionality of a person's immune system, you don't outright kill them, but you get them right at the door so that they become a repetitive customer for a clinician. And so the difference with my product is that the only thing I did was mimic what the body does when it's healthy. So I take those proteins, those amino acids, put them in a bottle, you take them, and you get the results from it.
Okay. So because like, once again, doing the research and everything for the program, I think one of the things that that I found out was a lot of times, our body is rejecting these things, and we're coming down with these cancers because, as you just said, what we're putting into our bodies is not natural, and our body is rejecting it, and in some forms of that rejection, it looks like cancer. And so I want to just ask this last question because I know we're out of time, but I think it's important for just those who are watching it. And that is, and we'll start with you, Dr. Patrice, is what would you suggest people should do when visiting doctors about potential cancer treatments?
Um, what I would suggest is simply to get your annual checkup. We should do it once a year. Just get your annual labs. And of course, they do your vital signs and all of that. But when you get your annual labs, when you get your annual checkup, when you get your vitals done, if there are any abnormalities that they detect on your visit, then just listen, take the information in, thank them for informing you, and then you go to a trusted healthcare provider and you go over those abnormalities because it may not be as bad as they that they lead on. And I would say case in point is when a person's cholesterol is mildly elevated, they want to start you on a statin, a statin drug. And so, if I see, if those of us who really know about cholesterol, if we see a slightly elevated cholesterol, we're not going to give you a prescription for something. So that's the first thing that I would say. I do recommend you go annually and get everything done that you're supposed to have done for your age group. And we can go further into that at another time, or they can reach out to me and I can let them know what that is. But take the information. Do not get all bent out of shape on what they're telling you, and do not on first visit accept the prescription for anything unless you get a second opinion.
Okay, and I know we've had Brother Eric. I'm gonna have to go ahead and let you get yours in. I don't want to bring you onto the program and just have you listening to everybody else. What would you advise?
I would advise your listeners to study what's been presented to you by Mr. Victer Muhammad. Study the practice that Dr. Patrice Muhammad has presented, and look at it as the new way of healthcare and use it to your benefit. I would also like to say, I don't know if it has been said, but 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when I and Mr. Victer Muhammad first started working together as we do daily, he offered to evaluate or review anyone's diagnosis of cancer to anyone, and especially to those in his community. I never heard him rescind that answer. I do know that I am a medium by which people get in contact with him, and I haven't seen many people take advantage of that offer. I do see many people, though, leaving us behind the recommendations of others for their path of healing from cancer. So I would just want to remind you that Mr. Victer Muhammad has made that offer to anyone who is suffering from cancer, to give him the opportunity to look at your case and give you his best understanding. And I don't know of anybody of a greater knowledge base that has our interests at best at heart that we should go to, because you can't trust doctors. They make money off of diagnosis of cancer. So that's what I would have to say.
So to close this on out, that's a perfect way to exit on out. Dr. Patrice, if you could give your information and how people can contact you and what services you provide, and we'll close it out with you, Brother Mr. Victer, if you could do the same, and how people can contact you and take advantage of your knowledge. Go ahead, Dr. Patrice.
Sure, they can reach me at www.healthatitsbest.org, which is on the screen now. And they can also reach me at healthatitsbest, the number 1, @gmail.com. And
Okay.
I'd like to thank you again for the opportunity. And I look forward to anyone who is looking into alternative cancer treatment. They can give me a call.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Mr. Victor?
I apologize for my net. Where I'm located currently, the network is very poor. So I apologize for that. I didn't hear the question or the statement, but I will assume you're asking for closing comments. If I were to say something, I would say this to those who are listening, particularly the African American. We quite often use my queen this and my queen that, referring to the African American woman, female. But I think that it's sad that in 2025, we say we lift the Black woman and we do this for the Black woman, but we still don't have a hospital for her.
Come on.
How can that be that you love her, but you're still sending her up into the hospital of sending her to the hospital of your and her enemy?
Goodness. Okay. All right. Well, once again, very succinct, right to the point. Brother Victor, we were asking if you could also close us out with how people can contact you.
The best way to contact me is Victer, Victer Muhammad @gmail.com. And in Africa, it is lsowusa@gmail.com. Those are the best two ways to contact me right now.
All right. And Brother Eric, how about yourself?
Again, you can contact us at natures-v.com. You can go to the website. You can review the history of Mr. Victer Muhammad supplements. You can review the history from the National Institute of Health on the proteins that they're talking about. And you can also set up appointments for consultation for Mr. Victer Muhammad at natures-v.com. That's natures-v.com.
All right. Thank you, brother. And I'm going to go ahead and close this on out. And then, but I would love to, if you all can send me your contact information through email or whatnot, because I would love to invite you all back on, like at least once every month. Maybe not all together, maybe separately, but definitely would like to have you all back on again. And thank you once again for your contribution. Even though the audio may have been a little spotty, I think that we can definitely extract what we need from what you said and for what all of you have shared, because, you know, really cancer, as we had on the flyer, it's really a sign of a bigger problem, which is, I think one of you said in the very beginning, that we live in a toxic society, period. I mean, it's just a toxic environment. Mind, body, soul, all of it is toxic. So, you know, unless we begin to separate ourselves from this toxic society, we'll continue to have these, what you would call, I guess, adverse reactions to the environment in which we live. So that's not the closing. So I'm gonna go ahead and close out and thank you all once again.
Thank you.
And I want to thank all of you all for tuning in and watching Knowledge for Life. And we want you to come back every week. We want to go ahead and look at health and wellness from a physical, nutritional, mental aspect. And as we were just talking tonight, about cancer, what we should all do is go and definitely get us a checkup. I know that it in some situation is frightening. We've heard certain stories about if you go get a prostate exam, or if you go get your breast exam or a mammography, that this will happen or that will happen. Look, what will happen is that if you don't get checked, that you're going to regret it, because you may have to live with your indecisiveness and hesitation. So go get you a checkup. Always look at improving your mental, because that affects the physical. And with that, I want to thank you all for watching. May God continue to bless you with the light of truth and understanding. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Oh, I gotta play my outro, which is a book that I wrote on building your immunity. So I'm gonna go ahead and play us on.
Are you ready to take control of your health and empower your immune system? Introducing Immunity Empowerment, a comprehensive guide to understanding and enhancing your immune system. For those looking for a holistic method to boost the immune system, Immunity Empowerment is the book for you. Learn how your immune system functions and discover the key to its strength and resilience. From the shadows of slavery to the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic, explore the pre-existing conditions that have disproportionately affected the Black community, such as diabetes, hypertension, and obesity. Western medicine often takes a compartmentalized approach, where sometimes the cure can seem worse than the disease. Uncover the implications of Western medications and why they come with side effects. But hope is not lost. Meet the nutritional superheroes, foods, herbs, and vitamins like vitamin C, zinc, garlic, and antioxidants that can supercharge your immune system. Discover the science of fasting and its profound health benefits when done mindfully and safely. Breathing properly, such as diaphragmatic breathing, can have positive effects on your immune system and overall health. Never underestimate the power of a good night's rest. Sleep is crucial for your overall health and immune system. Understand the life-saving power of breastfeeding and its benefits for both mothers and children. Be aware of depopulation and immunity-weakening culprits. Learn about the foods that negatively affect your immune system. Sugar, the greatest drug on earth. Discover how it undermines your immune system. The mind-body connection is powerful. Positive thinking can boost your immunity, while negative thoughts can weaken it. Enhance your physical and mental resilience with regular physical activities like walking or yoga, and mental exercises like mindfulness and stress reduction. Never underestimate the power of prayer. It profoundly impacts your well-being by connecting mind, body, and spirit. Healthy relationships are key. Find resources aimed at improving health within the Black community. Escape media madness. Learn how media shapes young minds and how to protect them from harmful images and messages. Explore the impact of alpha waves and mood music on your health and well-being. Cultivate abundance by building your home garden for self-sufficiency and improved well-being. Discover alternative forms of building and maintaining health. Empower your immune system today. Get your copy of Immunity Empowerment and start your journey to better health. Available now, get the softback at Amazon or the ebook with hot links to references and resources at Amazon, Gumroad, and Patreon.